what we are doing here is to go over strategies to design, as we did for product, and also guidelines, because strategies are high level, guidelines are a bit more detailed, and then examples. So a few more examples other than ones that Carlo already showed to you. And so the content is just an overview on the strategies, very quick, and then go directly to guidelines and examples. So the strategies that you're going to use to design S.PSS are kind of similar to the ones that we saw also for product. So you might recognize something similar, because we are still talking about product service systems. So products are also included, and they are treated like a sum altogether. So first strategy is clothing system life optimization. So you remember product life extension and intensification. Then we have something different here, is related to value chain, and this is reduce the transportation and the distribution in the clothing system. Something you can recognize is minimize resource consumption in the clothing system. And you can see that we always refer to the clothing system. So we are not dealing just with product, we're not dealing just with a phase, we are dealing with the whole system. And so value chain, etc. Then we have minimization and valorization of waste from the clothing system. Resource conservation, still very similar to the one that we saw in product, and reduce the toxicity in the clothing system. All of these have been not, invented, but they are the result of work of years and years with clients, within international research projects. They have been refined through several workshops with experts. In the case of clothing, it's quite new thing, but again, they are included in the book, and there's been 3 years of work behind them by the Lens Lab. And so how to do this? So how to apply the strategy in design is guidelines. So we have the guidelines to achieve environmental benefits. So the ones that Carlo introduced, driven by the economic interest. So the win-win, as we saw already. So for the 6 strategies, there are a set of guidelines, and we go straight to that. First one is clothing system life optimization, and what you see here is designing for stakeholders interaction. Okay, so we are not designing again product services. We are thinking about how stakeholders interact between themselves, and so we have the overall extension of lifespan of product and the system, and the overall use intensification. So I'm not going in depth again with the diagram. You remember the approach is the same. The only difference is that we are talking about a system sum. Okay, so you remember you have an advantage in environmental terms, because you don't have other pre-production, production, distribution phases, and in the case of intensification, you have multiple users using the same product, and so making the use phase more efficient. So here are the guidelines. Not going through those now, but these could be useful for your project. You will also have them available in the tool that you're going to use. And the first example is the one that you already heard from Carlo, so we go very quick, but it's baby clothing subscription by Bundly. So you just subscribe, you pay a month subscription, you can have the clothes, then you know that baby grows very fast. So you can swap the clothes and just change. What Bundles does is they take back, they clean the clothes, and other user can use that clothes. So in this case, it's clothing care oriented. So you can recognize that Bundly is taking care of all the processes. Is offering you the clothing when you're home. You are taking care of the clothes, then you give back the clothes, and they take care of those. So this is the kind of S.PSS that is applied here. And it's a pay-per period. So this is, it's similar to the rental. It's a subscription with different benefits. So you can swap, etc. So it's not exactly rental, but yeah, the rental is inside this box. Maybe it's not a thing of rental or not rental, but what is happening inside the rental, what are the services and how you interact with that. So which is in this case, the system design choice that is being applied. So the guideline that is the reference for this case is offering services for shared use of ownerless clothing. So it's a pay-per period or pay-per-use. Very quick on this one. Is very similar. It's a leasing of jeans. The only difference is that it's kind of worldwide. So they offer these take back services to for the repair, for example. You have the leasing. It's different from baby clothes, so it's something that you can. It's being a leasing. After 1 year, you can own the clothes. So it's switching between a clothing care oriented and a product care oriented. But the thing is that anyway, it's offering some services that are included, and you have access for the first year to the jeans. Then it's product oriented, but it's kind of the same. Basically, you have access to clothing with services included. After 1 year, it changes slightly, but it's still a, for example, pay per period, no? Because you pay monthly for 1 year. And here, what's the point is that the company is interested in designing those jeans to be long lasting, because again, they are taking them back, not only long lasting, but also to make them, for example, recyclable, because they are taking back. If you don't go with the leasing on and on, they take back, they take the material and they make new jeans. So they are also interested in designing for example, recycling. So this is another example. I don't know, thought you want to add something? Okay, so here what's applied is complementing the clothing product with all-inclusive services for maintenance and or repair. So this is the case in which it's not leased. So you have included services, you buy the product, but you have included services like the repair. And the other one is the same as before. So offer services for shared use, and it's applied to the leasing. So this was about the first strategy, so optimizing the lifespan. About the transportation distribution, again, guidelines. These are, again, main value chain guidelines. We already said in the product, we were saying, maybe when you design, you can think how you affect the value chain. In this case, we are designing systems, so the value chain is very focused on the design that you are doing. And so these guidelines are very focused on that. And the example is ArcNet and the business model of ArcNet, which is producer to consumer. What they're doing is basically creating a network to produce, to manufacture and design together with local artisans, all in a, let's say, locally, let's say, around their plants. And what they do, they don't have any intermediates. So they directly sell to customer. They are their own producer of clothing, and they directly sell. So they don't go through retails. For example, they don't have this double transportation process that obviously is, is making a damaging impact in terms of movement and emission of means of transport. So what is applied here is that the clothing developer, and this is the guideline, is one of the guidelines, just an example to show you what is being applied, is the clothing developer creates partnership with clothing manufacturers. So it's happening local. They can make it because they partner with who's around. So it's obviously, you cannot do everything by your own, but the business model is, we want to sell directly, to send directly to the customer. So we need a network locally to do the product, and then we take care of all the rest, and we make this sharp for the customer. One of the things that is important for all the examples, we're not showing something that is overall, let's say, a best practice of sustainability in general. No, these are examples for the guidelines. So don't take every case study for, the best example of sustainability. We're just making example. Then it's up to you when you design to combine all the things together. So transportation and balance, also with priorities. We also mentioned that in order to have the most sustainable results at the end. Other strategies, the resource consumption. Example is the laundry, the one that we mentioned before. So the laundry is can be considered an S.PSS. And it's happening as we all know. So it's the most simple thing that we have all around laundry. Again, why it's resource consumption? Because as what we are saying before, the provider owns the machines. So it's paying for the energy, it's paying for detergent, it's paying for whatever. So it's interesting is not consuming too much resources. Okay. And I go straight on this. A new pay-per use. What is happening? What it's applied there in terms of the guideline for minimizing resource consumption is offering the collective use of something. So you don't have your own washing machine. The washing machine is used by everyone. So you as a provider are interested in reducing the resources that are consumed. Minimizing and valorizing the waste. So we are, just show it better, but we are talking about recycling and yeah, valorizing the waste from the clothing system. So you recognize the diagram. We were discussing how you avoid some impacts of landfill and pre-production of other material. So if you don't recycle within your system, you have to collect virgin material to do new products, but also taking care of the impact that recycling, combustion or composting could have. So it has to be taken in consideration. And again, we are not talking just about product, but the overall sum of products. So for example, clothes, clothing care products, etc. So these are the guidelines for this strategy. And the example is on running Cyclone. So what they're doing, they're offering these trainings, shoes for running on, again, on a subscription mode. So it could be also an example for something else. But what is happening here is that trainings usually wears out very fast. So if you run a lot, the sole is not gonna support you very much. So you change a lot of those shoes, no? So what they're offering is just you subscribe, when your sole is over, you just give back the product to the company. Product is taken back, giving to you a new pair. And so what are they interested in designing for? In designing for making those materials of that shoes usable again for other products. So they're interested in recycling, okay? So that's the win-win and how it's applied. So which is the design choice here to minimize or valorize the waste of the product the overall sum of the system is to complementing the clothing with other all-inclusive take-back services. So I don't sell you the product, just sell you, but I'm putting together with the product a service which is the take-back. So this, for example, could be applied in any other context. Okay, let's go toward resource conservation. And you remember this was about renewability and also the concept of renewability. You remember it's not an absolute concept, but depend on the context in which you are designing. So we have the list of guidelines, and you will see that in the tool. And I guess you know this example. It's very famous also in Italy. Maybe some other professor told you about that. So no need to explain how it works, but what is happening here is that RIFO is relying on a district to collect all the after consumption textiles to create new textiles. So this is the point in which you understand which is the system design choice that is applied here. So you create a partnership in which you enable increase the use of recycled materials in the clothing system in this case, from disposed products. So it's not, you're not talking about, renewable resources, but this is a specific case in which you are relying on something that is coming from another production process. But it's still a point in biocompatibility and resource preservation, because you're not using new, for example, fossil resources. Okay, last one is reduce the toxicity. We have a couple of examples here. So again, it's about reducing the toxicity on the overall clothing system. And the example we have, the first one is Ziosh, is basically a QR code, which is, let's start from the beginning. You all know about microplastics that when you wash polyester clothes are going, going in the ocean. There are many problems related to that, etc. What they do is they underprint a QR code, obviously in partnership with providers of clothes, and this QR code is hidden at the beginning. The more you wash, so the more microplastics are released, the more it comes out. So when the whole QR code is visible, it's time for recycling, or it's time for something. You just scan the QR code. You can both have instruction on the recycling mode, or you can access to the recollection system by Ziosh. So they apply they take back the clothes. It's something very, let's say, at the beginning, new, so not active in Italy, I guess, but something very interesting in which they, they take care of the toxicity, let's say. In this case, let's say, treat microplastics as a toxic element because they're going in the ocean and it could have ecotoxicity impact. So it could be toxic for the ecosystem, but also for ourselves. Studies are going on, but that's a thing. So basically they are taking care of that, making this notice to customer in order to recycle before the damage is done. So what is applied here is complementing the products or the clothes with services to minimize or treat toxic or harmful emissions. And that's it. The second one is, yeah, it's more about textile, but it's good to understand, again, the toxicity topic. In this case, MEWA is hiring out swabs for big companies. And they are usually, then company use those swabs. There are a lot of toxic substances. So what they offer, what MEWA offer is not just selling, again, this product, but is also a container which, when the swab is used, can be put back in the container, and MEWA come back to the company, take care of the container with the dirty swabs, so take care of the toxicity, and then it gives back clean swabs to the company. So you can imagine, I mean, obviously there are other alternatives that could be even cheaper. If you think, I mean, they could even just buy swabs and then, I don't know, put in the trash. But when you deal with these substances, in this case, yes, you have to take care of the toxicity and could be very expensive. So this is interesting also for what we were discussing before. In this case, maybe the S.PSS is also directly convenient because you anyway have these costs of taking care of toxicity at the end. So if MEWA comes to you and say, we take care of everything, no problem. This is quite interesting. So what is applied here is, it's very similar. So you offer toxic management services to stakeholder through the payment based on the unit of satisfaction. In this case, is a pay-per period. And it's a full management of not pesticides in this case, but could be also pesticides. Obviously, there are many more cases. You also will have those connected to within the tool that you're going to use during the design phase, and they are all on the platform.